those were the best devotees, and most of them had trouble, which was unbelievable. Like these people were like the Rock of Gibraltar. So how could they have trouble? It's not possible, but they did. Because that when you get, the higher you go up, the more careful you have to. It's like if you go up and you're not Krishna conscious, you're in trouble. If you're down on the bottom and you're not Krishna conscious, you're already on the ground. So you're gonna, if you fall, it's a short drop. But if you're up here and up here and you mess up, you fall hard and you break your bones. And you can, yeah. So that's what happens. So when you're given positions in devotional service, higher and higher positions, you have to become more and more humble, and you have to become more and more free of this desire to enjoy. Otherwise, you dig your grave, because you won't be able to handle that level of facility, level of resource, and level of honor if you're not on the ground. People just, and so you were doing fine, just as a rank and file. You get put up here and you crash. So all those desires were there. You didn't know it, but there was no facility. There's no water. No water. All these weeds come out. There was, that story about the Death Valley, like never rains and so nothing grows. It's called Death Valley. And one year it rained, and I was like, oh. So it's like sometimes, like we don't realize our material desires because it's not raining, and all these seeds of material desire. Then you get put in a position where you have some power or some money or something, and it's like the rain, and the seeds of these seeds of, what do we call them? Weeds, it probably calls it in the CC. These weeds get watered, and we didn't know we had them because there was no water. So, and then Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you're not careful, when you water the weed, when you water the creeper, you could miss the creeper, and the water just goes on the weed. You're supposed to just water the creeper, right? But if you make a fence, you water the weed, your creeper's not growing. The weeds grow, and then the weeds go around the creeper, and the creeper dies. Hare Krishna. So it's, yeah. Sometimes you don't know how bad you are until you get in a situation where it can manifest. So sometimes it's better just to be a humble nobody. Although, we have to spread a mission. So to spread the mission, we have to be somebody, but then be a humble somebody. But if you can't be a humble somebody, you better be a humble nobody. And then you might say, but isn't it that like Krishna wouldn't put me in a position that I can't handle, or he would empower me? And that's true. But if the weeds start growing and you don't pick them, that means you're enjoying whatever is growing on that weed. And so Krishna's like, you want to enjoy it, yeah. And sometimes, this one devotee, this was a devotee outside of ISKCON, a senior Vaishnava, very senior. He said that sometimes Krishna will use a devotee because they have that tendency that they will make mistakes. They may even fall, but he's using that devotee as an example to everybody else. Don't do that. So he wanted it, he ran after it, and then he fell in his own trap. Now look at what he did. And then what was he doing? I said, well, he became proud. He started offending devotees. His sadhana became compromised, because it all just kind of works, do one thing, the next thing happens. First, you have a position, you're successful. It's really dangerous. Being successful is so dangerous. Because when you're successful, you think, well, I'm better, smarter, more talented, whatever, right? Look what we did. We built this project, or we made so many devotees, distributed so many books. So, okay. So from that, from that pride, what's stage 2 from pride? Offense, Vaishnava pride. Stems from I'm better. And then you start criticizing others, Well, they have no brain, they're stupid, they don't understand ABCs of preaching, they don't understand Prabhupada, blah, blah, blah. So, and then once you start offending Vaishnavas, then everything just goes down. You start losing your taste for sadhana, and then you stop chanting. And then once you do that, finish. Yeah. And one thing that's extreme, we have to be extremely cautious about is what we've seen in the history of ISKCON. When one got to that level, they felt like they had a right to offend anybody, even Prabhupada's godbrothers. And once they did that, that was the beginning of the end. There was a lot of that going on. Like, we have the right to offend people who aren't in ISKCON because they left ISKCON, or we perceive they don't respect Prabhupada as they should, or whatever. That's what happens when you become proud. You just start offending anybody. And the higher the Vaishnava you offend, the stronger the reaction, the more detrimental the reaction. You offend your wife, it's like, whatever. You're still here, right? We all offend our wives and husbands. We didn't offend our way out of ISKCON because it's not really offense. It's just fighting, like husbands and wives fight. But when you blaspheme a high Vaishnava, you have to be proud to do that. And sometimes we do that in the name of service, and sometimes it may be required to protect ISKCON, but generally it's not. So we talk about humility, so hopefully you understand the importance of humility in this context. And my personal feeling is that only the most humble should be leaders, because if you're not humble, you cannot be a good leader, but you won't. You'll just be demanding, controlling, and you won't listen to people, and you won't be able to create unity, and you'll become insensitive to people's needs. And leaders need to be sensitive. They need to listen. They need to be able to take feedback when they do something wrong. You need a sufficient amount of humility to do that. You need to be able to apologize. As we said the other day, Prabhupada, when he was upset with someone and chastised them, and he saw they didn't take it well, he apologized. And sometimes Prabhupada said, you have faults, I have faults. I can find faults with you, you can find faults with me, but what's the point? So he's even taking this position, I have faults. Sometimes he said, I was attached householder, very vulnerable. He's the leader of ISKCON, and he's being vulnerable. The attached householder didn't want to take sannyas, all these things. So if you're going to be a leader of any project, anything, humility is first qualification. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself crazy, and you'll drive everyone else crazy. That'll be a local party. Todos loco. There's a devotee he lives in Puerto Vallarta. His name's Atmananda. And he's told me something I never forgot. It's so beautiful. He said that he had a business. I think he was selling like high-end artwork, very expensive art. And he met a very, very, maybe like the wealthiest man in Puerto Vallarta, one of the wealthiest men in Mexico, and he made friends with him. And he started, they started having lots of talks. And then Abhinanda, he said something so beautiful. This guy has, big companies and like that. He asked him, do you love your employees? And do your employees love you? And I said, yes, that's it. That's the essence. Because if you don't have that, how is anyone going to be happy and inspired in your temple, company, whatever it is? And I thought get these two things straight. Do you love them? And do they love you? And if you're proud, nobody's going to love you. Steve Jobs started Apple and he was kicked out because he drove everybody crazy. Can you imagine? You start a company, you make it public, and you have trustees, or what do you call them? Trust board of directors. They can kick you out of the very company you started. And they kicked him out because he was obsessive about everything. And nobody could work with him. Until it went bankrupt and they called him back because they realized he started it, so he knew how to run it. And they messed it up. But anyway, so if you're a leader, and someday you will be if you stick around long enough, make sure the people under you love you and you love them. Of course, if you love them, they'll love you. Sri Gayatri once said to Prabhupada, after they had a darshan, he said, Prabhupada, everybody loves you. And he said, yes, because I love everybody. So naturally it works that way. So either you're going to love people or you're going to exploit them, right? You're going to serve them or try to get something from them. And if we try to exploit, we're going to just stay here until we learn that we're servants. That seems like such a simple idea. It's the most difficult lesson to learn is I'm a servant, because servant means I'm not enjoying. That is the most difficult lesson to learn. I'm not enjoying, I'm serving everyone. Right? How many men have gotten married and think after the wedding, now I'm the master. My wife's my servant. Or the wife thinks, now my Prince Charming is here to serve and take care of him. Despite, 20,000 years of brahmachari training that I'm servant, then the day after marriage is like I'm master. Like, where did that idea come from? It's so difficult to understand I'm servant, isn't it? Have you seen that? When a man gets married, it's like, whoa, my kingdom, here's my wife. What time's dinner? I want this, and this. And how will you learn to be a servant if you again assume the position of master? And that's why Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, when asked how many disciples do you have, he said, I only have 4. So my 2 arms and my 2 legs, because the concept of disciple is they'll do whatever you ask. I mean, in theory, they should. But the guru doesn't think, okay, I have all these people, so they're all my slaves. So I'm, okay, build me a mansion by the beach. Well, you could do that if you like. I don't know. But I won't order you to do it. Build me a mansion by the beach. Okay. And I want this and this and this. No, I don't have any disciples. I only have students who I serve. That's why he said I only have 4 disciples. Anytime a disciple paid obeisances, he would say, Dasosmi, I am your servant. I don't have disciples, I'm servants. These are my students. And these are my students, and I'm training them to be teachers. So I am the servant of them. And Prabhupada said to us, he said, I accept you as my spiritual master, because when we were serving him, he said, I'm learning, you're serving me so nicely, I'm learning from you how I should serve my guru. So you're my spiritual master. It was like, blew our minds. We're just like Kali Yuga off the street, lower than the lowest. And Prabhupada's telling us, I'm learning from you. And then one lecture, Prabhupada's telling us, when I die, I just want to die after we have 108 temples, because then I can die satisfied that I've pleased my guru, and then I can go to hell. The devotees were in shock. Prabhupada said, well, they all said, obviously the devotees said, Prabhupada, no, you're not going to hell. He said, yes, I'm going to hell. And the devotees said, well, then Prabhupada, we'll come with you. And he said, no, you're going to Vaikuntha. I'm going to hell. Of course, that's how Prabhupada felt. That was so he's revealing his internal mood. Like, hello, is anybody watching? Did you get that? This is how the pure devotee feels. He sees us as his guru, or he's learning from us, and he's telling us, "You're going to Vaikuntha, I'm going to hell." And what are we thinking? We're thinking, yeah, there might be a few people in the universe better than me, but I'm pretty much, in the echelons, top 5% of creative minds and talent. That's how we think, right? This is the Om Ashram. Every speaker you turn on says Om, and now we have the Om mower. Can you hear it? Om. Can you hear it? Oh, can't hear it? Okay, good. They don't hear it. Did I speak through this? Does that help?
Can I still hear you? No, fine.
Yeah, okay. So I find it like, it's so interesting that you have a pure devotee, it's exhibiting like right in front of you, exhibiting like this, like amazing. It's clear. This is clearly pure humility exhibited right in front of our faces, and we don't get it. And we get, okay, you're in charge of this van, and we're like, okay, I'm Lord Brahma now. You're doing this, you're doing that. Whatever I say, you don't listen to me. We're going to send you back, and we'll get somebody else. It's amazing. That's why I say it's this idea that I'm servant. We think, yeah, I understood that. That's why I became a devotee. No, you didn't understand it. When we were lower than the straw on the street, then we've understood it. If we feel that way, then we've understood it. When there's nothing in this world left to enjoy, then we've understood it. But until then, it's such a difficult concept to get, isn't it? Hare Krishna. And the problem is, we cannot be successful unless we live humbly. Because if we're not humble, we can never be corrected, and we'll just go off and off and off. You just go off a little and multiply that by 10 years. Pretty soon you're gone. What happened to so and so, Prabhu? I don't know. He was kind of off. Yeah, he was kind of off. One day he was kind of off, and then give it a few years, and he's way off. So yeah, if we are going to progress, we need to be in a state where we can be corrected. And Kali Yuga is so bad that what to speak of peers trying to correct one another. Kali Yuga, even the guru can't correct his disciples, or some of them, or maybe most of them. Well, that's not politically correct, and that's not fair, and or they'll like leave. Their guru corrects them, and then they leave. That happens. One of my godbrothers said, the most difficult thing for me as a guru is that I see what I need to tell a disciple who's going astray, and I can't tell them because they'll get upset, or they'll fall off. They're going towards the cliff, but if I tell them, they'll just jump off. So so humility is so important, so we can correct ourselves, all of us, from the top to the bottom. And as I was saying, the higher you go up, the more it's important, because the more you have influence. So if you're off, you're being off affects many people. If you're just rank and file, you're being off basically just affects you, maybe your roommates. But as you go up, you affect more people. What is? Should we have class now? Now you're like, no, don't stop. That was just because I was writing something this morning and I was thinking about it. We're supposed to read from the Bible. This is like, I have a recording studio and get everything set up, I'm waiting, weeks, you find the time, you turn everything on, everything's working, and they're going to read from this or do this. Hit the record button. The guy next door starts mowing his lawn. Because where I live, everybody's got 5 acres. So mowing the lawn is like kind of like Nitya Dharma, your eternal Dharma. Or, you're just ready, hit the record button. Thunder, rain, and I have a metal roof, so it sounds like a drum. It's like the sitcoms are like that. That's life is like that, isn't it? Let's have a picnic. We get everything. We cook all morning. We get it like, put everything out. Storm comes. The table, blows over. All the prasadam's on the floor. We all get wet. And Krishna's there like, come on, I told you this world was miserable. You didn't believe me, so I had to show you. So I think one thing I can make a general conclusion from this discussion, not just on guru disciple and not just on humility, but I think one thing we can understand is that we've talked about this. We have this like immense capacity to not understand things, to not realize. It's not that we can't understand. We have immense capacity not to realize things. Right? We have this immense capacity to forget, isn't it? That was a great class. I'm fired up. And then you go back and your wife says, it takes you like 2 minutes to walk from the class to your house. Your wife says, was it a class? Yeah, that was amazing. What do you say? I forgot something. Gurus. Yeah, it was amazing, isn't it? We have this amazing capacity to forget, and we have this amazing capacity to think we've understood something that we actually didn't understand because we had like zero realization and only 100% intellectualization, which is basically how we were trained in school. You just understand in your head. I heard this story. It was such a class. This is amazing. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was at a university when he was probably 27 years old. And they were doing kirtan and the professor came and a devotee introduced the professor. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, he's a professor of religion. He said, so you've read Bhagavad Gita? The professor said, of course. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, so what are you doing about it? And the professor said, you're supposed to do something about it? Wow, what a question. So you read Bhagavad Gita? So, yeah. Oh, I used my more sarcastic, said, you've read it? Doesn't look like it. I'm looking at you, it doesn't look like you read it by your behavior. But that's kind of offensive. But so what are you going to do about it, or what have you done about it? You're supposed to, and he was shocked. You mean you're supposed to do something? That's the intellectual process with which we're trained. Yeah, you're supposed to do something. You're supposed to get the right answers on the test. That's about it. And then, after you pass your test, go to the pub and get drunk. That's what you're supposed to do about it. From all the stress you spent finals week, right? So we're trained in this kind of idea that there's all these examples around us, and we think we understand it because it's in our head, and we don't. So, one thing that I think is important for us that we should get from this discussion is that we're dull. We've got layers, we've got lots of soundproofing in here. Right? It's like it doesn't, there's a product, I saw an ad for it. It's a soundproofing, and they had a drill, in a box. So it's echoing through the box, and it's probably like 120 dB. And they put, oh, maybe it was like a drill or something, but it was pretty loud, over 100 dB. And they covered the box with this insulation, and it was like, you could hardly hear it. It was almost like, is it even on? So we got a lot of soundproofing. That's our problem. To put it bluntly, it's called dull brain. So we have to always be discussing the philosophy. We always have to be talking about it, reflecting on it, hearing, reading, discussing, writing, preaching, reading, discussing, writing, preaching, contemplating, reflecting. Otherwise, it's just like we just lose it. We don't get it. Because for us to get it, we got to go down deep, layer. It's like there's so many layers covering up realization of what Prabhupada's saying. I mean, it's the layer of enjoyment and control. It's like it just blocks it. That's the soundproofing. I'm the enjoyer and controller. That's why we don't get it. So, we've got to dig through it deeper. And then when you start getting some realization what it means to be servant and not the enjoyer, and that Krishna is the enjoyer, and all those fears of surrender and giving up start going away, then the beauty of it is when you get to a certain level, then the plane takes off. Because, otherwise we're like on the one way. It's kind of like our plane looks like this. It goes up. So for so many years, we're like, but at a certain point, it'll start taking off, and then that's when Krishna consciousness becomes relishable and blissful. And then we get all kinds of realization, and those realizations inspire you. That's what gives you juice, and that's why you could never think of leaving Krishna consciousness, because it's so alive in your life, so real, so sweet. So, and you just dive into this ocean. Hare Krishna. And then, nuevo. Il nuevo? Y luego. That means then. Y luego. Then. Y luego. And then. And y luego. Y luego. Y luego. Then it becomes so easy to spread Krishna consciousness because it just comes out of you, because you've got all these realizations. People say like this, does like Krishna conscious work for you? And you're like, of course it works. It's amazing. Reading this book and all these realizations, my life is changing. And it's like, people are like, whoa, where do I sign up? Otherwise, is this Christian conscious work? Well, yeah, it's supposed to work. It's so easy. I'm not trying to chant everything. And no, it says chant, you'll be happy. And people are like, well, get me out of here. I'm not going to chant Hare Krishna. I'll end up like you, depressed, miserable. So that's how we spread Krishna consciousness. This is the process. You relish it. Your relish overflows, and preaching is a natural outpouring of your taste. It's not something you force yourself to do. Get out of the van. I don't want to get out. Get out. You should have. I don't want to. No, it's like the van hasn't even stopped, and you've opened the door and you're jumping out. There's somebody I want to share Krishna consciousness. Yeah, we have somebody here like that. It's just overflowing. You can't control it, right? That's how we spread Krishna consciousness, by our own enthusiasm. Then everyone's attracted. Enthusiasm is magnetic, right? this, I'll never forget this story. Hermosa. Una historia muy hermosa. Me gusta mucho. I could speak Spanish like a radio announcer. Me gusta mucho. Because when we distribute books at the borders, we'd hear all the radio, all the echo. I don't know if they still did the echo. Me gusta mucho, cho. They still do that, for the ads. And the Marathi music, and shop at this store. It's bodega. Anyway, so there's the devotee named Kamaniya, and she and her husband have a kirtan group called Premahara. They're based in Europe now. He's from Switzerland, she's from America. And I first met her before she had become part of ISKCON, and she was working at Dr. Mishra's ashram. Dr. Mishra's ashram is that first ashram Prabhupada went to in upstate New York. It's like an hour or two from New York. And that ashram still exists. And so we were doing a chopper retreat, maybe an hour or less from there. So I think Yadovar or someone knew her, and so she invited us. She liked her devotees. And she's a really good singer, and she had some position in the ashram. And then Sachinandan Swami had come there before. And she told me that night when we were there, she said, he had so much devotion. Like I'd never seen that devotion when he was chanting. She said, I couldn't even chant. I was embarrassed. She's a kirtaniya, and she said, I was embarrassed to chant because I guess she realized that my chanting doesn't have that kind of bhakti. And I felt like a fake. She said, I couldn't even chant in his presence. It was so much bhakti. So, and we have you've all heard of Vishnu Jan Swami, and Vishnu Jan Swami had incredible taste for kirtan and a contagious enthusiasm for kirtan. So many devotees were made through his kirtan, and so many people came to relish kirtan through him. The same thing with Ayendra. He dramatically changed the lives, especially of the youth, and gave so many of the youth that you see who have this incredible taste for kirtan because of him. So when you have taste, it's contagious, right? So that's so important because really, this sweater is warmer than you think. It's cashmere. But I'll wrap this up. This is silk, so this is warm. They say silk is warm when it's cold and cold when it's warm. Is that true? Maybe we'll find out. It's not, it's not really cold. It's like a summer day in Europe, right? For us. We just came from a very hot climate, so I'm kind of feeling it to be a little cool. What was the last thing I said?
You have a face.
Krishna Jan Swami. Ayendra. Yeah. Yeah, and then they're carrying it on also. That's how Krishna consciousness, that's how we become Krishna conscious. We have to have a taste. And then that's the, people, we can sit down and make strategy how to spread Krishna consciousness, but it's like the Catholic Church. They've got, structure, and they're way more together than we are. I mean, if there's any kind of anything that's going on in our movement that you want more clarity, just go to the Catholic website. They already figured it out. Like how to deal with everything. They've got more. There's like I was listening to this talk on chastity, and they said Well, here's a dictionary definition, and here's the Catholic Church definition, which was like perfect for us. It's like we couldn't have written it better. So, so Prabhupada said, if you stop, if you're not enthusiastic, it'll be finished. It can't go on. Preaching cannot go. But preaching will make you enthusiastic, but it can't go on without enthusiasm. And so you have a structure like the Catholic Church, but nobody's joining. Where are all the young people? They're having trouble getting there, as far as I understand. You have, you have priests that can't even follow their own rules. How can the new guys follow? The old guys can't follow. And it's just austere, difficult. It doesn't work. Krishna Jan was so enthusiastic. He'd wake everybody up. Sai Prabhu, it's 4 o'clock. Rise and shine. Another day to serve. And he'd be up like 3 o'clock already, have half his rounds done. And he was like, that was how the whole, everywhere he went, that's how his projects were going on, by his enthusiasm. And it was contagious because he felt like that. It wasn't artificial. So, my dear dull brain devotees, see, now I'm becoming puffed up. See, I get a little power and I become puffed up and I call you dull brain. See, there's an example. Be careful. It's just this, when you get in a position, there's this, like, the brain goes, everything I say is true now. Like yesterday, I didn't know anything. But today, everything I say is true. Well, how did that happen? Well, they gave me a little tag that said I'm the vice chairman of the assistant temple commander who's in charge of cleaning the toilet. So now I know everything about toilet cleaning. Right? Hare Krishna. I hope you're enjoying this class, everyone. Yeah. As you know, I have fun making fun of our fun. It's easier to digest. Why don't we stop before I say something wrong and regret it? And we can have questions. And I'm on my phone, which makes it a little challenging. I got to jump through like a few menus to get the chats. All right. Chat. Okay, we have a comment here. It's a common way of thinking in a relationship that I'm serving you, being this position of master. Oh, that's an interesting one. You're the master, and that's how I serve you, by telling you what to do. Right? Which may be true in some cases, but not if I'm engaging you in my service. That's master. My dear Devi, you feel so fortunate to be my slave. Because if you serve a pure devotee, you will also become pure. And if you serve me, you'll get all the advancement that I need, which is true. It's true. You serve your husband, you get his advancement. Just hope he's advanced. Make sure he's advancing. But if the husband thinks that way, it's like, of course you should serve me. You benefit. It's true. But that's not what the husband's supposed to do. I think that's what it's meant. Yes.
It works.
The wife wants the husband. The wife thinks the husband's fortunate because.
No, I mean that the husband serves the wife and here is the benefits of the wife.
No, the husband gets a really bad deal, which is why if you have to take birth again in your next life, pray to take birth as a woman. The husband gets all the wife's karma, and the wife gets all his devotional credits. So bad deal. Any of you guys who aren't married yet, you may want to reconsider now that you know the cost benefit analysis. You're responsible for your wife. So whenever you're responsible for someone, when they do something wrong, you get the karma. But you serve your husband, and you get his benefit of his piety, spiritual advancement. So better become a woman. Any of you thinking of having sex changes after I said that? I don't know.
Is that in like novel?
It's just it's everywhere. It's just the law of karma. It works that way. When you have a kid, for the first, I don't know how many years, but whatever, you're responsible. So you have control of them. So you're responsible for what they do. The president, 1/6 of the karma, because he's in charge. So what people do is affected by his ruling. So he gets part of it. The guru's disciples' karma, and Jai and Vijay, Krishna apologized on their behalf because they're his devotees, they're his servants. So he felt responsible for their offense to 4 Kumaras. So it's just the way karma works. That it's like if you take a superior position as master, now everyone is serving you, you're responsible for their actions. How far it goes, because sometimes you can't control. You have a disciple and they just run off and do something stupid. You don't have control of it. But as far as you have control of, you're responsible for those. It's just how karma works. Up to you're responsible for your kids up to a certain age, and then they get the karma after that. And the guru could also do that. He could let the disciple go, say, "I reject you." And the Bhaktivinoda Thakur says if a disciple is unqualified, the guru has to reject them because otherwise he gets the karma. He gets polluted. So when the guru rejects the disciple is another question. Every guru may see it differently. But if the disciple is totally unqualified, the disciple is turned against Prabhupada, the guru will get that reaction if they don't reject that disciple. Or correct that disciple. Obviously, first try to correct, but you can't correct. You have a disciple and you haven't corrected, and they're offending Prabhupada. You'll get affected, but you reject them. Now you're no longer my disciple. Go. Now, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says you have to do that. Protect yourself. That's a discussion we're having. We just had that discussion the other day. When is it okay for a guru to reject a disciple for his own protection, his guru's protection? Generally, he won't. He'll always leave the door open. Even if he rejects him, he'll leave the door open. But there's a story where Gadadhar Pandit gave Gayatri mantra to Balabhavata, and Lord Chaitanya was very displeased with him. And at least it's a leela that Gadadhar Pandit was affected by, ill-affected by his affection to someone who was not pure. So karma, it's like, it's just interacting all over the place. And then one vez, there were some devotees, and you can call them devotees, I don't know. They had a prasadam business, but the prasadam business was a front for another business, which was not legal. And they wanted to, it was kind of like the mafia, donating to the Catholic Church kind of thing. Kind of like they wanted to like kind of justify by giving that money to Krishna. So the temple president asked Prabhupada, can we take the money? Prabhupada said, I cannot take that money because I would be encouraging sinful activity. Because if I take it, I'm encouraging them to continue with the sinful activity. And he said, and if I take that money, I will be contaminated by that money. In other words, I will be affected by taking. And there was another story recently like that. I can't remember a similar situation of contaminated money, like where I think someone was saying that his realization of some devotees falling down, maybe sannyasis, is they took contaminated money. Like they knew where it was coming, they encouraged it, they took it, and their spiritual life went down. So there's all these reactions going all the time.
You mentioned I also read the letter where Prabhupada, these husband is asking him like, oh my wife does that, something like that. And say, oh, so spiritual follow her.
Right.
So in a situation like this,
Oh yeah. Well, Prabhupada was amazed. Anuradha is saying there's a devotee who wrote Prabhupada, and of course Prabhupada always said the husband's the guru. I mean, that's the traditional Vedic system. The women didn't go to Gurukula, so how are they going to learn? They're going to learn everything from the husband because he went to Gurukula. They got basic education and they learned how to be wives, how to cook and do domestic chores. So they weren't going out in the workforce. So that was the culture. And the husband would be trained in the Gurukula, so then he would be the guru. That's how they learned. So that's traditionally, the husband is the guru. But now, things are not always like that. And so sometimes it comes, the wife is educated the same way as the man, both before Krishna consciousness and after. And so sometimes we find the wife is actually more advanced. So what Anuradha is saying is that a man wrote to Prabhupada because he was a little confused, because he didn't feel like he could be the leader or the guru of his wife because she was more advanced. So he asked what to do. And Prabhupada said, if she's more advanced, so this is, you could kind of say, classic Prabhupada, breaking the boundaries, based on what is true and practical, not based on some system that may not be applicable to this particular situation. He said, if she's more advanced, then I forget if he said she can be the guru. He said, you take advice from her. But basically, the roles can shift. And it might have been the same person that he got Brahminical initiation, and Prabhupada said, she can chant the mantra into your ear, which I never even heard. Because it was always, we got a tape and we'd listen to Prabhupada. And he told her, give it to him. So then she acted as his guru, empowered by Prabhupada. So the thing is, it's not like she's the guru, she's the representative, Prabhupada is the guru, but if she can represent Prabhupada better than he, then she can represent Prabhupada to him, and then she can be his guru, so to speak. So Prabhupada was, in that sense, Prabhupada was just adjusting on the go everything. He wasn't caught in, he didn't paint himself into a corner of rules and regulations where they didn't apply. So, a lot of men will say, my wife is more advanced or more knowledgeable in certain areas. And if the men are humble, they'll get good advice from their wives. I don't know. Sounds like karma's going to change. Watch out on the reference. But Sarvadamam Pritaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. So Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo Mukishami. So our position is we serve Krishna, karma, no karma, whatever. We do our duty. Whatever falls on our head, it falls. That's our movement. So we know Krishna will protect us somehow or other. So we don't worry. Just do our duty. The way Prabhupada wants us to do, we're okay. Right? I gotta press some buttons here. Let's see. And we have a comment from Krishna Prashni. It seems that most of the disciples are not qualified those days. Most of the disciples were not qualified or are not qualified in these days. Well, I just heard a story the other day, and I told the story a few days ago. There was an initiation. There were like 50 devotees for second initiation. The Prophet said, half of these devotees should not be initiated. It was like an intuitive sense that you're giving second initiation too easily. But he never said that for first initiation. So I think that's why in ISKCON, standards for first initiation have always been not so strict, although some gurus are more strict. Some gurus are extremely strict. Some gurus are so strict to just get initiated by them. It's like, like winning the lottery. They're not going to take you if there's any doubt that you're going to be a problem to them or you're going to have any trouble. So the idea of giving first initiation more easily did come from Prabhupada, who said we can give first initiation more easily. You're chanting 16 rounds for a year. You're 19 years old. Who knows where you're going to be when you're 30? 50% chance you'll be in Maya. You won't be chanting your rounds. But 50% chance you will. So we give you a chance. So that's one philosophy. Really, what a lot of gurus want to see is that, does my disciple have a mentor? Are they in a good temple? Are they in a good environment? Are they part of a bhakti vriksha? You check all the boxes, everything is good. Okay, we'll initiate you because you're in a good situation. Of course, it could change, but they want to see that you have a good sangha, you have a good group, you have mentors, you have guides. So that's really more important, I think, than, and analyzing someone's qualification, because very qualified devotees in bad situations have difficulty. As we're seeing here in Mexico, some devotees there were some problems here, and some devotees were very affected because they weren't associating. Well, COVID, nobody was associated. That amplified the problem. But and then they became more independent. Then after COVID, weren't associated. So that's a consideration. But second initiation, definitely. There may be, differences of opinions on first initiation. Some gurus are more strict. I think some gurus will wait 7 years. I was thinking about 7 years. 7 years is an interesting number. Guna Maharaj used to say, there was a movie called The 7-Year Itch. I never saw it. I'm not sure what it was about. But he used to say, 7 years, that's the 7 years in devotion. That's the tough year. 7th year. It's always, I don't know. You remember your 7th year as a devotion. 7 years, like a tough year. If you make it past 7, usually you're okay. So most devotees will leave before 7 or in their 7. And most devotees, when they get past that, 7, 8, 9, 10, pretty much the rest of their life, they'll be devotees. It won't be so. I think that's what I've seen. So some gurus will wait 7 years. If you made it for 7, you're good. You've kind of been through 7 years. You go through a lot of different situations. So let them see. So it's not a bad idea. I'm just working on some documents now to explain more carefully what it means to be a disciple, because I think that's really the most important thing. And I just came out with a workshop. We now have uploaded, I guess it's on our app now, our workshop on vows. So now I can require everyone who wants to take initiation from me, and maybe I can convince the other groups, take this workshop on vows, and then take the workshop on forgiveness, and then we'll put up the workshop on japa. Take that, read Bhagavad Gita, read Lilamrita, and all these people, so much to read, so much to study. Yeah, well, if that's how you feel, you shouldn't get initiated, because if I initiate you and have 10 years later, like, so much to read, so many rounds to chant, then like, why get initiated? So if we put up some of these barriers, which aren't really barriers, they're just to help you, and you can't even do that, well, that's a good sign you're not ready. And it also buys time, because it takes time to do all that. And then your enthusiasm could just run out after a few years. It's like, well, I don't think I should get initiated. But also, a lot of it depends on the relationship you have with your guru. Because I've seen devotees, no matter how much difficulty they have. If they have a strong relationship with their guru, that's what keeps them going, no matter what. They just don't, because they don't want to turn their back on their guru. They have such a good relationship, they can't do it. Even though they can't chant, they're like, Guru Maharaj, someday I'm going to do it because I want to do this for you. So if that relationship is strong, yeah, I've seen my own experience, they never go away, no matter how difficult it is, because they have that connection. So that's also another factor. But it's Kali Yuga then, so things aren't getting any better. People are, more sinful now, more emotionally, psychologically disturbed now. So it's just becoming more and more difficult. So what are you supposed to do? Cancel initiations? Call it. It's, Kali Yuga now is 500 and 5,000. And so many years in Kali Yuga, all initiations canceled. People are too fallen. We can't do that. So the idea of first initiation, okay, here's the holy name. You don't have to be, you have to be, do you know that in some sampradayas, you cannot wear tilak until you're initiated, because tilak is one of the reformatory practices of initiation. And every sampradaya has different tilak. So you go some sampradayas, it's like the lotus leaf is like, down at like the tip of your nose. The lines are real thin and they go out like this, the red dot. And that means you're in this sampradaya. And you can't think, hey, that tilak's cool, I'm going to try that. No, it's a different, you're not in that sampradaya, you don't wear it. So one of the reformatory, there's 5 reformatory items of initiation, and one of them is tilak. So technically speaking, you're not supposed to wear tilak until you're initiated. And one of the items is the neck beads. Or one of the items is branding, or you can just do the tilak instead of getting not a tattoo, a hot stamp, chakra, or whatever they do in the Sri Sampradaya. So, and then so what we do is, okay, we say, you can wear tilak as soon as you become, anything. We were putting tilak on guests, in the old days. They come to the temple, tilak, come in, next tilak. You have the holy name, you can have tilak. If you're going to work in the kitchen, you wear one strand of neck beads, which those beads are only given at initiation. And we change your name to Bhakta. So your name even changed. Bhakta Tim. You're not Tim anymore. Bhakta Timothy. So a dog didn't like that. Or maybe he did like it. So you're not, he's saying, I want to be initiated. All right. Fill out the form for disciples. We'll consider it. So, so technically speaking, and you have a guru, like a 6-year guru, or you have Prabhupada, you don't have any, you have Prabhupada as your guru. So you have Prabhupada, you have tilak, neck beads, your name has been changed to Bhakta or Bhaktin. It's like, basically you're initiated, that's the way it works. Right. So it's like, so if we say we're giving initiation too easily, well, we already initiated everybody. Like the first day they move into the temple, because on your neck beads, wear tilak. You're now Bhakta John, which interestingly, Bhakta John, sometimes they get names like Bhakta John, which is a spiritual name, because Jana means person. Prabhupada initiated everybody Bhakta John. Or Bhakta Su means good. Or what was another one? Like, that's, devotees have names, so there's like Nadia, Bhakti Nadia, it's like a spiritual name. Anyway, so that's why Prabhupada was more easy with the first initiation, because basically you get it anyway. So even if you don't get it, you kind of got it. You've got Prabhupada, you've got the holy name, you've got everything. So it's really, as Prabhupada said, it's a formality. So if you say, okay, you've been chanting for 6 months or a year, to give in, so Prabhupada said, to encourage you. So it encourages you. Okay, now you're going to formally make this vow. I have people making vows to me all the time who are not initiated disciples. They say, I want to make this vow because I want to follow this. Yes. You can be not initiated and you could say to me, I want to make a vow to follow 4 rules and regulations. We heard this thing and I knew this, but I forgot. This is so cool. Oh my God. Krishna Karshni, you'll love this. Fasten your seatbelt. No, don't fasten your seatbelt. Stand up because you're going to dance when you hear this. In the Catholic Church, if you want to be a nun, I don't know about the monks, you make your vows every year, but they're not vows that you can't break. You go, I will try to do this. And you make them for 7 years. And after 7 years, they'll actually let you make it as a vow. And then you can become a nun. It takes 7 years to finally do it. So you say, so it's kind of like, okay, live in the monastery, live in the convent, and follow these vows. And then reaffirm every year, I'm going to follow this another year, another year. After 7 years of making the vow, then you get it. And you can become a nun. What a system, right? Because how many drop out before the 7 years? But Mahaprabhu is more merciful. And the second initiation we give is not second initiation. It's the second half of one initiation. And so it's the second half of one initiation, which was divided in half so we could give the first initiation, quote unquote, to encourage people. Because, and then you get a spiritual name, so you kind of like fit in, and you made your vows. So, making vows are good because maybe how many of us would chant 16 rounds every day for the rest of our life if we didn't make a vow? Because it's really easy not to. Have you noticed? You've noticed, right? It's easy not to chant. So imagine you didn't have a vow. Like you wouldn't have to. And you know what? I hope you're still standing up because you might dance at this also. Do you know the 4 regular principles? We have no Shastra, no Padati, manual, anything that says to follow those 4 principles. Did you know that? There's nowhere that says you should follow these. That was what Prabhupada gave us. In Gaudiya Math, when you get initiated, it's like, here's your beads, don't starve them. No number, don't starve your beads. And no principles. And you get a name. Yeah. So imagine we did that. We'd have like half the people in Latin America be devotees now, initiated. So Prabhupada did it because we're Kali Yugaites and we're fallen. And these are the 4 principles of sinful life. And if you don't follow these, your chanting is not going to be pure. And so the whole idea is to chant a pure holy name because it's Kali Yuga. Everything's about the holy name. So you got to follow these 4 principles as the foundation, right? So if you're in olden times giving it out, everybody's already following. You don't even have to talk about it. It's just the way society was. Just normal, right? Nobody's eating meat, gambling, drinking. Now everybody's doing it. So Prabhupada said, okay, we have to enforce this. Okay, so you take a vow. I'm not, I'll be a human being. I'll follow these 4 principles. Good. Now if you take that vow, you chant Hare Krishna. And 16, then you're going to go. So initiation's good because it will force you to follow those principles. So, but Prabhupada's mood is like, it's the first half. And the second half of the initiation, the brahminical initiation, that very careful. As you know, hardly any of my disciples got second initiation, at least for years. We didn't give it because I thought, like, well, who's ready? And why? And then the temple president calls you, can you give this devotee second initiation? We have no Brahmins here. And so to serve the temple, say, okay. But I still have to be, I still have to feel that they're going to follow these 4 principles. They're going to be sattvic, they're going to be clean, rise early, chant. Then you give second. So that's why Prabhupada said, half these devotees don't get initiated. Because he saw that, so many people are leaving. It's okay, they're leaving, but they're not brahmanically initiated. So it's like, you're initiated, you're not, you're basically initiated, just you've got Prabhupada and the holy name. It's like you're initiated. Because you don't need initiation to chant that mantra, but you need initiation to chant Gayatri mantra. You have to get it through initiation. Otherwise, if you chant it, it doesn't work. It's just a mantra with no Shakti. Sampradaya vihina ye mantra nishpala. Unless you get it through Sampradaya from a guru, and he has to say it in your ear, and you hear it, and you someday give it to someone else in their ear, it doesn't work. But the Maha Mantra works for everybody. It doesn't matter. Any guy off the street, can you say this? And we know from the Mantra Project, people chant first time. How do you feel? Feel really special, feel wonderful. This girl, what was her name? Andrea. When Andrea came, she was asking me about Gayatri Mantra. And she said, I chant Gayatri Mantra. I said, but it doesn't work if you're not initiated. She says, I feel good. I said, yeah, you feel good. On an emotional level, you may feel good, but spiritually, it doesn't work just by chanting. All the people are chanting. You can get recordings online, you know. Om Bhuvasaha Vatsavito Varena Bhargo Devasudi Yo Yona Prachodaya. But it doesn't work because you have to get it from Guru and you have to follow principles. And so not everybody's ready for that. But everybody can chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada said, give it, because that's what we're doing anyway. You say, why do you initiate these people? They don't follow. I know, but basically when we gave them the holy name, we kind of initiated them. Basically. And you say, yeah, they didn't vow. Yeah, that's true. But half the devotees who make a vow don't even take it seriously anyway. So you vowed in initiation and the other person vowed in his mind when he moved in the temple. We're so fallen, it's like probably the same. The vow was as weak. You know, it's just weak. That's why I made the video on vows. So you won't, when you make a vow, you actually think. So that's my solution, Krishna Karshani. We educate people with what it means to have a guru, what is initiation, and then we require them to take this course on vows so they know what they're doing. And then they'll rethink it. Maybe I don't want to maybe I'm not ready. Or they'll understand, oh, this is good. I want to take a vow because this vow will help me. If I make it properly, it will help me. Because that's the point. If you make a vow properly, it helps. As we can see. All of it. I've chanted 16 rounds a day. Some days I missed, but I made it up. So if you do 60, many days I've been a devotee, even before I was initiated, times 16, it'll come out. Some days a little more, some days a little less. But it'll come out. I don't think I would have done that if I didn't make the vow. I took the vow seriously. It's like, I promised Prabhupada, so no way I'm not going to do this, no matter what. Right? Now, the 4 principles, sometimes we may accidentally fall due to circumstance. I got locked alone in a room with Miss Universe for a week. So, okay, we understand, something like that basically happened to me. So, but that wasn't planned. So accidental, right? But what happens? You made the vow. So after you do it, you regret it. It's like, I'll never do this because I made the vow. You don't make the vow, it's like, oh, well, whatever, I'm just weak, just human. And a million excuses. And, next lifetime, if I'm born a brahmachari, then I can do it. And so vows are important. So it's good. So it's like, here's a chance. You have a bet. Don't you have a better chance if you make a vow? I think so. In front of everybody, that's there. And a lot of devotees leave, and then they come back, and they take up and they say, I made a vow to Prabhupada. My guru, if I didn't follow it, I want to follow it. And then, they'll go to Vrindavan for a month, chant 64 rounds, try to make up, or, so it's good, right? I think. Healthy pressure. No. Healthy pressure. But if you're not initiated, still you should have a guru. And if you don't have a guru, at least you should have Prabhupada as your guru. Because then you're connected with someone and you have the holy name. Because you can't exist without a guru because you need siksha, you need guidance. So it's better you have personal guidance and a person to surrender to who can guide you and a person you have affection for who you're inspired to serve. Some people feel that with Prabhupada. I know people who they're like 60 years old and they like, or older, and they learned about ISKCON when they're like 12 and it was with Prabhupada. And that's the connection. So like they had a hard time. They had a hard time accepting initiation because they always saw Prabhupada as their guru. My guru would say, okay, Prabhupada's your guru. I'll just, officially initiate you because you're supposed to be initiated, but he's your guru. So at least Prabhupada, you have the holy name. You're good. At least something. I mean, we're not Ritvik or anything. But if you have a guru, you're part of a sangha, you have affection for your guru, it just helps so much more, in my experience. Because I have disciples I know, even though they're struggling and they're not doing well, because of that connection, they're still going on. I think without that connection, they would, if it was just, them trying to connect to Prabhupada, they're not advanced enough. Maybe in the future, yes, that would be enough. But for some, yes.
What about the like to sign contract, and the contract is like it's already and the disciple and the other part of the contract is diplomatic or
Yeah.
and some of the parts.
Well, let me repeat, you a disciple, you signed a contract, 16 and 4, the guru signs a contract, I will help you in your spiritual life, take you back to Godhead.
Yeah, I sometimes and the guru, so
Yeah.
and some of the part doesn't.
One side or the other doesn't,
Some people is a good people, yeah.
the guru, yeah. Yes and no. Because, so he's saying, well, what if the guru doesn't fulfill his contract? Like the guru falls. Yeah. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, if your guru falls, you should get another guru. He said, if your guru falls into sense gratification, you'll be contaminated. The disciple will be contaminated by staying connected to the guru, and you should take shelter of another guru. So that's there, but there's all kinds of shades of gray in this. If a guru doesn't fulfill his contract, which means what? He didn't give up Krishna consciousness. He just kind of gave up his position as guru. So I no longer can do this. I'm too weak. Yeah, then some will say, but you made the contract with the disciplic succession. He was bona fide at the time, so you don't necessarily need. So it's a choice. Disciples will have to make that choice. Or you're connected with this Prabhupada's still there. You're connected.
But because we like to look about the disciple and this is what I'm trying to say is that it's an option that
For the disciple to reject the guru?
I mean the guru can continue having the disciple if the disciple for them. But the contract legally, so legally, okay, you are not contract. So
Saying it,
right this but I can continue.
oh, he's asking, so let's say the guru falls, so he didn't fulfill the contract, so I have the legal right to reject him or take shelter.
On both sides. Both
Yeah.
sides.
So does the disciple have a legal right? Does the guru have a legal right? In certain conditions, yes. I'm on a group now, and I want to discuss this because I think we need to define what are quote unquote the legal rights of the legal rights of the disciple have been defined because of gurus falling down. And sometimes the guru doesn't do anything wrong, but the disciple loses faith for some reason. And so in that case, or sometimes the guru does something wrong, but it's not really wrong. Like it's just, it was the wrong instruction for the disciple. And that disciple was damaged by that instruction. And now they can't relate to the guru. They expected affection and they got the hammer. And it was very detrimental for them. So they can't really reject the guru, but they could distance themselves and take a Siksha guru. So I just can't. It's not healthy now for me to have an intimate relationship, but I'll be respect from a distance. So that can be, so there's different things you can do. One devotee told me that she teaches the disciple course. He said, practically in every disciple course, someone comes and says, I think I took the wrong guru. Because you're supposed to take the disciple course before you choose your guru, not after. And so the general answer is it's not a problem because there's so many people you can take guidance from. If you feel your guru is maybe not the best doctor for you. So you can take guidance from others. Or he is the best doctor, but there's another specialist. Okay. You need both. Yes.
what happens when someone is like inspired by the body that is not a guru,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like uh, because in some places it's really hard to have like a real connection with the guru because most of the gurus don't get there.
Yeah.
Or maybe by Zoom, but people can also feel like I don't know, there is no like a close guidance.
Yeah.
So they feel more inspired about a normal devotee than they want them to like so they still have to need to be
Or if they, so there you're talking about an uninitiated devotee who finds someone to be their Siksha guru, and that Siksha guru does not initiate.
but maybe it's initiated, but it's not like a guru. No, they can do like they can they teach that.
Yeah. So you have, yeah. So what's the position about the devotee who finds a Siksha guru, and that Siksha guru is cannot initiate? That Siksha guru could be the most important guru for them, but according to Shastra, you should get initiation. And so there can't kind of be like a ritik initiation, like, let's say that that was your case. Like in Bolivia, let's say you weren't initiated, and you found this Siksha guru, and this was the person you see as your main guru, and then I were to initiate you, I would just say I'm initiating you on behalf of him. He's your guru, take instruction. And it's just a formality. You respect me from a distance, but it doesn't have to be anything more than that. And your connection is with that group. So that's how it would work. And then or before that, you would ask this group, I want to be initiated by you. Would you be willing to take disciples? So there's also some talk about formalizing Siksha so that anyone who's a Siksha at any point could take disciples. Once he gets officially becomes a Siksha guru, then he could take disciples if he wanted. Which would be nice.
What would be the purpose of that scenario?
The formality of the instruction of that we should be initiated into the disciplic succession. To be officially connected to the disciplic succession is one of the principles, 64 items. The 5 most important of the 64 is accepting shelter, guidance. They're all about guru, and one of them is being initiated. So I wouldn't say it's a formality, but it's a necessary formality. You could make the argument, okay, it will be awkward for me to be initiated because I will wait for this person. Maybe 50 years from now, he'll initiate. I don't want to be initiated by anyone else. That could be there. We don't want to interfere with the sentiment of the devotee. And, we can't judge what's going to happen as a result of that because we're not Krishna. But we can only go on the basis of what Shastra says. And so that's what's generally recommended in Shastra, that at some point one should be officially initiated. Prabhupada waited 11 years, so it didn't seem to be such a rush. The other scenario of that is just take shelter of that person, just wait, and just tell him, I'm not going to take Diksha from anyone, so I'm waiting for you. And he'll say, I'm never going to give it. So that's okay. You're the only one I want to get it from. But that's also a bit of a misunderstanding because you need to get your membership card, so to speak. But you can still, this person's your teacher and he can teach you without the membership card, but you need to get your membership card. But it doesn't change anything. This is your guru. So it's kind of, it's awkward, which is why we would like more people to be gurus. But
So you are in some way responding to what we were talking the other day, discussing when Diksha gurus speak.
oh yeah, right, yeah. So one of the things that ISKCON wants to do is it wants to educate disciples and devotees in knowing that your Diksha guru is not necessarily going to be the guru that will be your primary guru. or the most important. He may be, and he may not be. Just like in this case, he wouldn't be. And so in answer to your question, by having her get initiated by a Diksha Guru more remotely and taking shelter of the Siksha Guru, it demonstrates that this relationship with Siksha Guru is more important, but we also need to get initiated, but it doesn't have to be, that person doesn't have to be your primary guru.
Like it's like a rite of passage to a religion. There could be the ceremony, everything to fulfill that need of rite of passage, rather than
No, because no, yeah, it's the guru. It's the guru is connecting you. That is your Diksha Guru. So it's connecting you to the disciplic succession. You could have a rite of passage with your Siksha Guru. You could do some formal, like I'm vowing to accept you as my guru, chant, I vow to you to chant 16. You can do all that. But that's different than the official connection. That's, I mean, if you study the Shastra, then you'll see it in that. I mean, it could. I mean, traditionally, that was not uncommon that you'd have one Diksha Guru, and he was not the Siksha Guru. They have all around him were multiple Siksha Gurus. We have to end class now. It's time for yapa. For us, it's time for breakfast. So Hare Krishna, all of you. We had a wild time this morning. Hope you enjoyed it. And take out that soundproofing off your head so you can get everything in there. The philosophy. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Gurudev, Jai Prabhupada. Let's start chanting.